We're about halfway through 11.4 now, which gives our analysts a perfect read on the meta and allows us to share with you guys the updated mid-patch tier list. As always, our tier lists are generated with the help of our Challenger Players Insight, along with using the most up-to-date stats, so you guys have the most accurate tier list out there. How do you feel about 11.4 so far? Are there any champs you think are still in need of nerfs? Never thought I'd say this, but Udyr is completely broken right now, and he's one pick Riot should definitely have on their radar for 11.5. In order to get ahead of the meta each and every patch, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the first to abuse the new trends that are popping up. And without any further ado, let's start by breaking down the top lane meta. Fiora has been surging in 11.4 after the buffs to her passive, along with the new builds going around. If you guys watched our Korean builds video this patch, then you'd know of the Essence Reaver into Shield Bow setup that's dominating Korean high elo, and is being played by one of the best top laners in the world, Nuguri. As a result of these changes, Fiora will jump right up into S tier for our mid-patch update, and we could even see her making it into OP very soon once players stop tunneling on the Gore Drinker and Ravenous setup. Taking a look at the complete tier list now, a few other notables moving up include Nocturne, Sylas, and Karma. We featured both Nock and Karma in our Hidden Gems video for this patch, so be sure to check that out if you want an in-depth breakdown on why they're so much stronger. As for Sylas, Everfrost and Cosmic buffs are really helping him out in 11.4, which is why he's moving up a tier. Other than that, we still have Garen, Cho'Gath, Darius, and Malphite as the OP picks of the patch, so continue to abuse them while you can. Those jungle XP nerfs have caused a slight shift in the meta, almost exactly as we predicted. Strong early ganking junglers like Elise are really loving the changes, as she can impact the map very well early on and doesn't like to hard farm anyways. Elise has repelled from S into OP tier as a result. Shaco's another jungler seeing way more success the last few patches. He received a direct buff back in 11.2 that bumped him up, and then the jungle nerfs this patch don't affect him as much as others due to his ability to gank a ton early on. After rushing Gale Force, the recently buffed Essence Reaver is giving Shaco a lot of power as a second item, and makes his one shot in the mid game really insane. Everything's trending really well in Shaco's favor the past while here, and he will now have a spot in the S tier. One jungler moving down on our list is Graves. The jungle changes haven't been kind to Graves, and he's struggling to find any footing in 11.4. Hard farming just isn't the optimal way to play now, and there are so many other junglers who can gank and impact the map more effectively than Graves early on. We'd recommend making this adjustment to the meta and dropping Graves from your champ pool, as he will be placed in our B tier. Shyvana was just recently buffed, but gets a kick in the gut and takes a step back this patch due to her reliance on hard farming. For that reason, Shiv will be moved back down into B tier. And then if we take a quick glance at the complete jungle tier list, a few other notables moving up have been Lee Sin and Jarvan. Both will be moving from B into A tier as a result of seeing more success due to the higher pace gank-focused meta we now have found ourselves in. The OP picks of the patch include Elise, Udyr, Kha'Zix, and Hecarim. Abuse Udyr while you can if you want that freelo, as he's just so insane right now and will likely be nerfed in the coming patches. Other spam gank junglers like Nunu and Rammus are so much better, as we featured them in our best champs to main video for 11.4. The biggest winner for mid lane has been Kassadin with the Everfrost and Cosmic Drive buffs. Everfrost in specific is the best rush item on Kassadin, and all the buffs it received makes the champ super broken now. Kassadin will be rift walking out of S and into OP for our mid-patch update. Taking a look at the mid-tier list now, there really aren't any other big movers for 11.4. We already bumped Talon up to S in our pre-patch tier list. He's one to really watch out for and is so much better now after his buffs. The OP tier will now consist of Kassadin, Anivia, Fizz, Galio, and Pantheon. For ADC in 11.4, Jinx has been a massive winner after a base HP revert. She was buffed back in 11.3, but also received that base HP nerf in compensation, which kept her down in power. Getting that 60 HP back combined with the extra range on Fishbones puts her early game on a whole nother level. She's performing way better than we expected and will be jumping up 2 whole tiers from A into OP for our mid-patch update. Caitlyn has been performing at an exceptional level due to the buffs she received. Kate's been on the rise for a while now, as she was also buffed back in 11.2, and with top tier ADCs like Kai'Sa, Jhin, and Samira nerfed in recent patches, it gives Kate room to move up. Not quite to the same degree as Jinx, but enough for us to nudge her 1 tier from A into S. By far, the biggest loser of 11.4 has been Samira. We played it a bit conservative with Samira's ranking on the pre-patch tier list, dropping her from OP down to A, but now that we have a better idea of the meta, she'll be dropping down even further. Samira will now be placed all the way down in our C tier as one of the worst marksmen on the patch. If you had hoped Samira would remain decent after those nerfs, we hate to break it to you guys, but finding a different ADC to main is highly recommended now in 11.4. For the entire ADC tier list, we now have Jinx joining Vayne, Jhin, Senna, Seraphine, and Swain as the premier carry picks of the patch. Sivir and Tristana are two champs we had in our best champions to main video and are highly undervalued at the moment. Even after the nerfs to Kai'Sa, she's still an S tier pick, so unlike Samira, if you were abusing Kai'Sa in previous patches, continue to do so for 11.4. Moving on to support, the nerfs to Moonstone Renewer have indirectly weakened a few of your enchanters like Yuumi. The healing from the item is now considerably less early on, which in turn sees a pick like Yuumi drop down from A to B tier in 11.4. Having a look at the support tier list, a few other Moonstone users are also dropping down a tier. Lulu is moving from OP down to S, and Janna from S down to A. Seraphine is still holding up extremely well despite those Moonstone nerfs and will remain in the OP tier, accompanied by Thresh, Rell, and Leona. With that being said, everything else remains very stable in the support role. One interesting champ performing very well with the buffed Everfrost Rush is AP Shaco. The stealth from Shaco's Q allows him to get right up onto his target, root them with Everfrost, throw a box down, and watch as the enemy is chain CC'd without any counterplay at all. Shaco is a very underrated support pick if played to his limits, and is placed in our S tier for 11.4. So that wraps up our quick mid-patch update tier list. We hope this helps you guys get a really good read on the meta and now know what you should be abusing here in 11.4. To make sure you don't miss out on our mid-patch tier list for 11.5, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the first to get ahead of the meta. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Good luck in solo queue, and we'll catch you next time.